The message came at 3:47 inches the morning, Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres was half asleep at his station aboard the carrier, relentless when his console lit up with emergency signals. He sat up straight and stared at the screen. The words made no sense at first. He read them again. New Haven Colony. Total communication loss. All channels silent. Torres felt his stomach drop. New Haven was home to 2.3 million people. Families, children, workers, scientists, regular people who had left Earth to build a new life among the stars. And now every single communication channel from that world had gone dark at the exact same moment. That did not happen by accident. He forwarded the alert to Admiral Daniel Ortega immediately. The Admiral was awake within minutes, standing on the bridge in his uniform, his face hard and serious. Ortega was 62 years old. He had served in the Space Command for 4 decades. He had seen wars, disasters, and first contact with alien species. But he had never seen anything like this. "Get me everything," he ordered. "Every satellite, every probe, every ship in that sector. I want to know what happened." The crew worked through the night. By morning, they had fragments, broken pieces of distress calls that had been sent in those final minutes before silence fell. Torres played them on the bridge, and everyone listened. The first voice belonged to a woman. She was screaming. "They came from nowhere, ships everywhere. They're bombing the surface. Oh God. They're bombing everything." The second voice was calmer but filled with fear. "This is New Haven Central Command. We are under attack by unknown forces. Requesting immediate assistance. They are targeting civilian centers. Repeat. They are targeting civilian centers." The third voice was just a child crying for her mother before the signal cut to static. Admiral Ortega stood very still. His hands were clasped behind his back. His jaw was tight. Around him, officers and crew members sat in shocked silence. Some had tears in their eyes. Others looked sick. "Sir," Torres said quietly, "the weapon signatures in these recordings. They match Vorthani technology, the Vorthani Dominion. Everyone knew them. They were one of the older powers in the galaxy, an empire that had existed for thousands of years before humans ever left Earth. They had always looked down on humanity. In diplomatic meetings, they called humans the young ones, in a tone that made it sound like an insult. They did not like how fast human colonies were spreading. They did not like how quickly human technology was advancing. But no one had expected this. "Send a reconnaissance squadron," Ortega ordered. "I want eyes on that colony within 48 hours. The squadron left that same day. 3 fast ships, with the best sensors in the fleet. They traveled through slip space, that strange dimension that allowed ships to cross light years in hours instead of centuries. When they emerged near Kepler 442b, where New Haven had stood, the squadron commander sent back a single image. The image showed a planet of glass and ash. Where cities had once stood, there were now flat plains of melted rock. Where forests had grown, there was only black dust. The oceans had boiled away in some places, leaving behind salt flats that stretched for hundreds of miles. Not a single building remained standing. Not a single tree. Not a single blade of grass. The detailed scans came next. The squadron searched for survivors for 6 hours. They found none. 2.3 million people had lived on New Haven. Now, there were 0. The attack had been complete. Total. Absolute. Ambassador Catherine Moore received the news at her office in the Galactic Assembly Station. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 30 years building relationships with alien species, working to earn humanity a place among the stars. When she saw the images from New Haven, she had to sit down. "This is genocide," she said to her staff. "This is nothing less than genocide." She demanded an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. The Assembly was the closest thing the galaxy had to a united government. Representatives from hundreds of species met there to discuss trade, borders, and disputes. Humanity had joined 60 years ago, after first contact. They had always been a minor voice, a young species still learning the rules. Moore stood before the assembly and presented the evidence. The weapon signatures, the communication intercepts, the images of destruction. She demanded action against the Vorthani Dominion. The response was silence. High Arbiter Zethkal, a tall being with gray skin and 6 eyes, spoke for the elder races. "This is an unfortunate incident," he said. "But it appears to be a territorial dispute. The Vorthani claim that humans were expanding into their sphere of influence. Perhaps there were warnings that went unheeded." Warnings? Moore could not believe what she was hearing. There were no warnings. And even if there had been, you cannot warn someone before you murder 2.3 million civilians. That is not how civilized beings behave. Zethkal's expression did not change. The Assembly cannot intervene in disputes between member species without clear evidence of wrongdoing. The Vorthani are a respected power. Perhaps humanity should consider whether their expansion has been too aggressive. Moore looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces looked back at her. Some showed sympathy. Most showed nothing. A few showed what looked almost like satisfaction. She understood then. This was not just the Vorthani. This was the galaxy teaching humanity a lesson. Stay small. Stay quiet. Know your place. On Earth, Secretary General Patricia Dawson received the full report. She was 68 years old, a grandmother, a former lawyer who had spent her career fighting for human rights. She read every word. She looked at every image. She watched every recording. When she was finished, she sat alone in her office for a long time. Her assistant came in eventually. "Ma'am? The press is asking for a statement." Dawson looked up. Her face was calm, but her eyes were cold, in a way her assistant had never seen before. "Contact the Assembly," she said quietly. "Inform them we expect answers. Real answers. And if they cannot provide them, inform them that Earth will find its own." The assistant nodded and left. Dawson turned to look out her window at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere out there, among the stars she could not see in daylight, the ashes of 2.3 million of her people were drifting on the wind of a dead world. She made a decision then. If the galaxy would not give them justice, humanity would take it. 3 weeks passed. Earth waited for an answer from the Galactic Assembly. The answer came on a Tuesday morning, and it was worse than silence. High Arbiter Zethkal delivered the official response in a recorded message. His 6 eyes showed no emotion as he spoke. The Galactic Assembly has reviewed the incident at the human colony designated New Haven. After careful consideration, the Assembly has determined that this matter falls outside its authority. The dispute between humanity and the Vorthani Dominion is classified as an internal territorial matter. No further action will be taken. Ambassador Catherine Moore watched the message 3 times. Each time, her anger grew. She had served in the Assembly for 15 years. She had believed in the system. She had told her own people to trust it. And now she understood that it had all been a lie. She contacted her staff and ordered them to request a formal hearing. She would speak before the full Assembly one more time. The hearing took place in the Great Chamber, a vast room filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Moore stood at the center, alone, surrounded by alien faces. "I stand before you today not as a diplomat," she began. "I stand before you as a voice for 2.3 million dead. Children who will never grow up, parents who will never see their families again. Workers, teachers, doctors, farmers, all of them gone. Burned to ash because they dared to build homes on a world that threatened no one." She paused and looked around the chamber. The Vorthani Dominion committed genocide. There is no other word for what they did. They did not attack military targets. They did not demand surrender. They simply killed everyone. Every man, every woman, every child. The chamber was silent. And what has this assembly done in response? Nothing. You have called it a territorial dispute. You have suggested that humanity brought this upon ourselves. You have made excuses for mass murder. High Arbiter Zethkal spoke up. Ambassador Moore, the Assembly has procedures. We cannot simply condemn a member species without proper investigation. Then investigate. Moore shouted. Send observers. Review the evidence. Talk to the survivors. Oh, wait. There are no survivors, because they killed them all. Zethkal was unmoved. The Assembly has made its decision. If humanity wishes to pursue this matter, they may do so through proper diplomatic channels. Moore stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was not a happy sound. Proper diplomatic channels? She repeated. I see. When the Vorthani murdered our people, there were no proper diplomatic channels. But when we ask for justice, suddenly, procedures matter. She turned to address the entire chamber. I want everyone here to remember this moment. Remember that when humanity came to you, asking for help, you turned away. Remember that you chose to protect murderers instead of victims. Because humanity will remember. And we will not forget. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. On Earth, Secretary General Patricia Dawson called an emergency meeting of the unified government. Representatives from every nation attended. The room was filled with angry faces and raised voices. Dawson raised her hand for silence. When she spoke, her voice was calm but heavy with grief. I have spent my entire career fighting for justice, she said. I believed that the law could protect the innocent. I believed that civilization meant something. I believed that if we were good neighbors, we would be treated well in return. She shook her head slowly. I was wrong. She activated a display screen. Images of New Haven appeared. The glass plains. The ash fields. The empty skies. 2.3 million people. Dawson continued. They trusted us to protect them. They trusted the galactic community to uphold basic rights. That trust was betrayed. Not just by the Vorthani, but by every species that voted to do nothing. By every elder race that decided our children's lives did not matter. A representative from Brazil spoke up. What do you propose we do? Dawson was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak again. And her voice was different now. Harder. Colder. I have asked Dr. Laura Chen, our leading expert on alien cultures, to explain something to this council. Dr. Chen, a woman with short black hair, stood up. She was younger than most in the room, but her eyes were old with knowledge. Thank you, Secretary General. Dr. Chen activated her own display. Star maps appeared, showing the territories of various galactic powers. The galaxy operates on a simple principle that no one talks about openly, she said. Young species that grow too fast are seen as threats. The elder races have a name for this. They call it pruning. When a young species becomes too successful, too powerful, too ambitious, the elder races allow or even encourage other powers to reduce that species, to cut them down to size. The room erupted in angry shouts. Dawson raised her hand again for silence. Are you saying this attack was approved by the Galactic Assembly? Someone demanded. Not officially, Dr. Chen replied. But the lack of response tells us everything. The Vorthani would never have acted without knowing that the Assembly would protect them. This was not a random attack. This was a message. Stay in your place, or this will happen again. Dawson stood up. Every eye turned to her. We came to the stars with open hands, she said. We offered friendship. We traded fairly. We followed their rules. We asked only for a place among them. And their answer was to murder our children. Her voice grew stronger. We tried to be civilized. We tried to be good. We tried to earn respect through peace and cooperation. She paused and took a breath. If that is not enough for them, then we stop being civilized. The room went very quiet. I am ordering a complete break from the Galactic Assembly. All ambassadors will return home. All trade agreements are ended. All cultural exchanges are cancelled. We will not participate in a system that protects those who slaughter our people. A general stood up. And our military? Dawson looked at him. Begin full mobilization. Every shipyard working at maximum capacity. Every factory producing weapons. I want us ready for whatever comes next. Ma'am, the general said carefully. If we go to war with the Vorthani, the other powers may intervene. Then we will be ready for them too. The meeting ended. Word spread quickly. Within hours, every human in the galaxy knew that Earth had cut all ties with the Assembly. The forges of Mars, silent for decades, roared back to life. Mining ships headed to the asteroid belt. Recruitment centers opened on every colony. Ambassador Moore returned to Earth and met with Dawson privately. You know what this means, Moore said. If we fight alone. No allies. No support. Dawson nodded. I know. The Vorthani are powerful. The elder races even more so. We might lose everything. Workva. We might, Dawson agreed. But if we do nothing, we have already lost everything that matters. Our dignity. Our honor. Our right to call ourselves a civilization. She looked out the window at the night sky. They wanted to teach us a lesson. They wanted to show us that we are small and weak and that our lives do not matter. Instead, they taught us something else. What? Moore asked. Dawson's eyes were hard. They taught us what we are willing to become when we have nothing left to lose. Across human space, billions of people who had once believed in peace prepared for war. And the galaxy, which had dismissed humanity as young and harmless, did not yet understand what it had awakened. 6 months had passed since the destruction of New Haven. The galaxy believed that humanity was licking its wounds. The Vorthani Dominion sent messages to Earth's remaining colonies, warning them to withdraw to the Sol system or face the same fate. They expected fear. They expected surrender. They did not expect what came next. Admiral Daniel Ortega stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Relentless, looking at the stars through the main viewport. Behind him, his crew worked in quiet efficiency. Commander Nicole Reyes, his second-in-command, approached with a datapad in her hand. Sir, all ships report ready. The fleet is assembled. Ortega nodded. The official records showed that Earth had managed to build 40 warships in 6 months. A respectable number, but nothing that would threaten a power like the Vorthani Dominion. The official records, however, were a lie. Show me the real count, Ortega said. Reyes smiled slightly. She tapped her datapad, and a holographic display appeared. Ships filled the screen. Row after row of warships, carriers, destroyers, and battlecruisers. The count at the bottom of the display read, 327. For 60 years, humanity had shown the galaxy only what it wanted them to see. Slow ships, basic weapons, simple technology. The elder races had nodded approvingly and considered humanity harmless. They never asked what humanity was hiding. They never imagined that the young species would have secrets. The truth was that humanity had prepared for this day since first contact. Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, secret research stations on moons, technology developed in isolation, never shared with galactic observers, slipspace corridors mapped and constructed without anyone knowing. How did we keep this secret for so long? Reyes asked. We let them believe what they wanted to believe. Ortega replied. They saw young, harmless primates playing with toys. They never bothered to look closer. The fleet began to move. Ships powered up their engines, running lights blinking in the darkness of space. Ortega watched them on his display, 327 vessels carrying the fury of a wounded species. Before they left, Ortega had one more duty. He activated the ship-wide communication system and his voice reached every crew member in the fleet. "This is Admiral Ortega. In a few hours, we will engage the enemy. Some of you have asked why we are doing this. Some of you wonder if there is another way. I want to answer those questions now." He paused, gathering his thoughts. 6 months ago, the Vorthani Dominion murdered 2.3 million of our people. Men, women, and children, who had done nothing wrong. They burned an entire world to send us a message. That message was simple. Your lives do not matter. Your dreams do not matter. You are nothing but insects, to be crushed, when convenient. Ortega's voice hardened. The galaxy watched this happen and did nothing. The powers that claimed to represent civilization decided that genocide was acceptable. They decided that our dead deserved no justice. He looked around his bridge, at the faces of his crew. Young faces, determined faces. "So we will give ourselves justice. We will show them what happens when you push humanity too far. We will teach them that the young species they dismissed is more dangerous than they ever imagined." His tone softened slightly. "But I want to be clear about something. We are not them. We do not kill the innocent. We do not murder children. We go to war because we must, not because we want to. Remember who we are. Remember what we fight for. And remember that when this is over, we still have to live with ourselves." He ended the transmission. Reyes looked at him with respect in her eyes. "That was a good speech, sir." "It was the truth," Ortega said simply. "Now let's go make them remember it." The fleet entered slipspace through corridors that no galactic observer had ever detected. They traveled faster than any ship the elder races believed humans could build. In hours, they covered distances that should have taken days. On the Vorthani border, Dominar Vethral commanded a defense fleet of 60 vessels. He had been warned that humanity might attempt a response, but his intelligence indicated only a few dozen ships at most. His 60 warships could handle that easily. He had laughed when he received the warning. Humans were weak. His laughter died when slipspace opened and 300 warships emerged. "That is not possible," Vethral said, staring at his display. "Where did they come from? Where did they come from?" His communications officer was pale with shock. "Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the human fleet. Their admiral wishes to speak with you. If you have a growl, mark side, H-teen. One side, other growl, other side, one side, H-teen. Put him through." Admiral Ortega's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, almost peaceful. "Dominar Vethral?" Ortega said. "I am Admiral Daniel Ortega of the United Earth Space Command. You have 2 choices. Surrender your fleet and submit to trial for war crimes, or be destroyed." Vethral tried to recover his composure. "You dare threaten us? The Galactic Assembly will not allow this aggression. The Galactic Assembly chose to do nothing when you murdered our people. They have no authority here. Only I do. We outnumber your—" "Actually, no, we do not." Vethral finally looked at the tactical display properly. He was outnumbered 5-1. "This is impossible. Your species does not have this capacity." Ortega smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "You thought you knew everything about us. You were wrong. Now choose. Surrender or death." Vethral chose to fight. It was a mistake. The battle lasted less than 2 hours. Human weapons, hidden for decades, tore through Vorthani shields like paper. Human ships moved with speed and coordination that no one had believed possible. Vethral's 60 vessels became 50, then 40, then 20. Sergeant First Class Kevin Murphy led a Marine boarding party onto a crippled Vorthani detention ship. His team moved through dark corridors, weapons ready. They found holding cells in the lower decks. Inside those cells were humans. Survivors from New Haven's orbital stations, captured before the bombardment and kept alive for interrogation. They were thin and weak. Some had been tortured, but they were alive, Murphy knelt beside an old woman who could barely stand. The woman looked at him with hollow eyes. "They made us watch," she whispered. "They made us watch them burn our world." Ass. Murphy's hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. He wanted to find the Vorthani who had done this and make them pay. But his orders were clear. Prisoners were to be treated according to the rules of war. "I know," he said quietly. "But it's over now. We're taking you home." By the end of the battle, Vethral's fleet was destroyed. The Dominar himself was captured, alive but humiliated. His ship had tried to run, but human vessels were faster. Ortega stood over the captured Vorthani commander. "You killed 2.3 million people," he said. "Did you think there would be no consequences?" Vethral glared at him. "The elder races will destroy you for this. You have started a war. You cannot win." Ortega shook his head. "We did not start this war. You did. We are simply finishing it." He turned to Reyes. "Set course for Vorthan Prime. It's time to end this." The fleet moved deeper into Vorthani space. Behind them, the wreckage of the border fleet drifted silently among the stars. Ahead, the Vorthani homeworld waited, and across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity as young and harmless began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. The human fleet arrived at Vorthan Prime 3 days after the border battle. Admiral Ortega stood on his bridge and looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. 12 billion Vorthani lived there. Families, children, ordinary people who had never chosen to murder anyone. Just like New Haven. His fleet surrounded the planet in a perfect sphere. Every major city was within range of human weapons. One order, and he could turn those cities to glass, just as the Vorthani had done to New Haven. One command, and 12 billion lives would end. The thought made him feel sick, and it also made him feel powerful in a way that frightened him. "Sir," Commander Reyes reported, "we have complete orbital control. Their defense fleet is destroyed. Their ground-based weapons cannot reach us. The planet is defenseless." Ortega nodded slowly. "Any response from their government?" "They are requesting negotiations. They want to speak with you directly. Tell them I will speak when they are ready to discuss unconditional surrender." Not before. Minutes passed. Then, hours. The Vorthani government argued among themselves. Some wanted to fight to the last. Others wanted to surrender immediately. A few suggested using their civilians as shields, hoping humanity would not fire on populated areas. While they argued, another message arrived. This one came from the Galactic Assembly. High Arbiter Zethkal appeared on screen. His 6 eyes showed something Ortega had never seen in them before. Fear. "Admiral Ortega," Zethkal said, "the Galactic Assembly urges you to show restraint. What you are contemplating would be a crime against all civilized beings." Ortega stared at the screen for a long moment before responding. "You speak of restraint? Where was your restraint when the Vorthani murdered 2.3 million of my people? Where was your call for civilization when you voted to do nothing?" Zethkal shifted uncomfortably. "The Assembly acknowledges that mistakes were made. We are prepared to reconsider our position regarding the New Haven incident." Incident. Ortega's voice was ice. "You call it an incident. Children burning alive is an incident. Families being vaporized is an incident." He stood up from his chair and walked closer to the screen. "Let me tell you what this is, Arbiter. This is justice. Your assembly refused to provide it, so we are providing it ourselves. You taught us that galactic law is meaningless, that civilization is a lie, that power is all that matters. Well, we learned your lesson, and now we have the power." Zethkal's voice became desperate. "Admiral, please. If you destroy that planet, you will prove that humanity is no better than the Vorthani. The other races will unite against you. Perhaps, Ortega said, but they will unite against a species they fear, not one they can ignore. You showed us that being good earned us nothing but death, so now you will see what we become when goodness fails. He ended the transmission. Father Christopher Santos, the fleet chaplain, requested permission to visit the bridge. Ortega granted it. The priest was an old friend. They had served together for 20 years. Santos stood beside Ortega, looking at the planet below. Daniel, he said quietly, using the Admiral's first name, what are you going to do? I do not know yet. You have the power to kill 12 billion people. Yes. Santos was silent for a moment. Do you remember why you joined the Space Command? Ortega almost smiled. You're going to give me a sermon? I am going to remind you of something you told me 30 years ago. You said you wanted to protect people. You said you wanted to be the shield that stands between the innocent and those who would harm them. That was before they murdered my people. Santos nodded. It was. And now you have a choice. You can become the thing you swore to fight. You can kill millions of innocent Vorthani who never wanted this war. Or you can be something else. Ortega looked at the priest. They deserve to suffer. After what they did, they deserve everything we could do to them. Maybe they do. But do you deserve to become a monster? Do the men and women in this fleet deserve to carry the weight of genocide for the rest of their lives? Before Ortega could answer, another message arrived. This one was from Earth. Secretary General Patricia Dawson appeared on screen. She looked tired, old, but her eyes were sharp. Admiral Ortega, she said, I have been watching the situation. I need to know your intentions. Ma'am, I have not yet decided. Dawson nodded slowly. Then let me help you decide. I gave you permission to wage war. I gave you permission to destroy their military. But I did not give you permission to commit genocide. Ortega felt something twist in his chest. They killed our people. All of them. Every single one. I know. I read every name. I looked at pictures of the dead. I have nightmares about the recordings. Her voice broke slightly, then steadied. But we cannot answer murder with murder. If we glass their world, we become exactly what they are. We prove to the galaxy that we are monsters. The galaxy already thinks we are weak. If we show mercy, they will see it as proof. Number 4. No. Dawson's voice was firm. Mercy is not weakness. Any fool can destroy. It takes strength to have the power to destroy and choose not to use it. That is what separates civilization from barbarism. Ortega was quiet for a long time. He looked at the planet below. 12 billion lives, waiting to see if they would live or die. He thought about New Haven. About the children who had died screaming. About the families who had been given no chance, no mercy, no warning. He thought about what those children would want him to do. Commander Reyes, he said finally. Sir, target all Vorthani military installations, shipyards, weapons factories, command centers, military bases only. Reyes looked at him. Sir, are you certain? After what they did, I am certain. We are soldiers, not murderers. We came here for justice, not revenge. The Vorthani military will be destroyed. Their ability to threaten anyone ever again will be eliminated. But their civilians will not be harmed. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Ortega. We will be conducting precision strikes on military targets only. Civilian areas are not to be targeted. Any captain who fires on civilian populations will face court-martial. We are not like them. We will never be like them. Ortega out. The bombardment began. Human weapons, powerful enough to crack continents, struck with surgical precision. Military bases vanished. Shipyards were reduced to rubble. Weapons factories collapsed. The Vorthani Dominion's ability to wage war died in fire and thunder. But the cities remained standing. The schools remained full of children. The families remained in their homes. When it was over, Ortega ordered marine landings. Sergeant Murphy led the teams that captured the Vorthani High Command. They found Dominar Vethral trying to escape on a personal shuttle. Murphy brought the Dominar before Ortega in chains. "Why?" Vethral demanded. "Why did you not destroy us? We would have destroyed you. We did destroy you." Ortega looked at the alien who had ordered the death of millions. "Because that is the difference between us. We could have glassed your world. We had every right to. The galaxy would not have stopped us, but we chose not to. That is weakness." "No." Ortega shook his head. "That is strength. Real strength. The kind you will never understand." He turned to the guards. "Take him to the brig. He will stand trial for genocide. A real trial, with evidence, and witnesses, and justice. Something his people never gave ours." As Vethral was led away, Father Santos approached Ortega. "You made the right choice, Daniel." Oh, Ortega did not feel like he had. He felt tired, and sad, and unsure if mercy was truly justice or just another kind of failure. But he knew one thing: the dead of New Haven deserved to be avenged. But they also deserved better than to be used as an excuse for more death. He hoped that was enough. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Vorthani Dominion. The galaxy was different now. Everyone could feel it. The Galactic Assembly met in emergency session. But this time, the atmosphere was changed. The elder races who had once dismissed humanity as young and harmless now looked at the human delegation with something close to respect. Or perhaps it was fear. It was hard to tell the difference. Ambassador Catherine Moore stood at the center of the chamber. She wore a simple black suit, the same color she had worn since New Haven. She had not worn any other color in a year. "Representatives of the Galactic Assembly," she began. "1 year ago, this body told humanity that our lives did not matter. You watched as 2.3 million of our people were murdered, and you did nothing. You called it a territorial dispute. You told us to accept it." She paused and looked around the chamber. Many eyes would not meet hers. "We did not accept it. We went to war. We destroyed the military power of the Vorthani Dominion, and then we did something that surprised everyone, including ourselves. We stopped." "Wud. Wud." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "We had the power to destroy Vorthan Prime. 12 billion lives were in our hands. We could have answered genocide with genocide. Many of our people wanted us to, and no one would have stopped us. No one would have stopped." She let that sink in. "But we chose mercy. Not because we are weak. Not because we forgot what was done to us. We chose mercy because that is who we want to be. Because the dead of New Haven deserved better than to be used as an excuse for more death." High Arbiter Zethkal shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Moore looked directly at him. "Arbiter, you once told me that the Assembly could not intervene in territorial disputes. You suggested that humanity brought the attack upon ourselves. I want you to know that I will never forget those words. None of us will." Zethkal said nothing. "But I am not here for revenge. I am here to build something better." Moore activated a holographic display. Documents appeared in the air, visible to everyone in the chamber. Humanity proposes a new framework for galactic law. Real law, with real enforcement. Genocide will be considered a crime against all species, punishable by military intervention. Developing species will be protected, not pruned. And any power that attacks civilian populations will face consequences, regardless of their status or history. A representative from one of the elder races spoke up. "You cannot impose your will on the entire galaxy." Moore smiled slightly. "We are not imposing anything. We are proposing. But I will say this. Humanity has demonstrated that we have the military power to enforce these principles, if necessary. We would prefer to work within a system that shares our values. If such a system does not exist, We will create one. The message was clear. Agree to justice, or humanity would ensure justice through other means. The vote took 3 days. In the end, the new framework passed. Not unanimously, but by a large enough margin to matter. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not to be dismissed, and that lesson would not be forgotten soon. After the vote, Zethkal approached more privately. His 6 eyes showed something that might have been shame. Ambassador, I must ask you something. The elder races feared humanity's potential. That fear drove us to approve the Vorthani action. We believed that stopping your growth early would prevent a greater threat later. Do you intend to punish us as well? Moore considered the question carefully before answering. We could. We have the power now, as you have seen. Part of me wants to. When I think about what you allowed to happen, what you encouraged, I feel a rage that frightens me. She took a breath. But we came to the stars hoping to find wisdom among the elder races. We found only cruelty and fear. So, instead of revenge, we will build something better. We will prove that strength and mercy can exist together. And maybe, in time, we will teach the galaxy what civilization truly means. Zethkal bowed his head. Perhaps we misjudged your species. Perhaps there is more to humanity than we understood. There is more to every species than others understand. That is the point. She walked away, leaving the Arbiter alone with his thoughts. Far from the Galactic Assembly, on a newly rebuilt world, life was beginning again. The colony was called New Haven Memorial. It stood on the same planet where 2.3 million people had died. But now, new cities rose from the ash. New families made their homes where old families had perished. Life continued, as it always does. Megan Walsh was a teacher at the primary school. She was young, barely 30, but she had been chosen for this job because she understood the importance of memory. Her own grandmother had died on New Haven. She led her class of 20 children to the memorial wall. It was a long wall, carved from black stone, and it held 2.3 million names. The names were small, but each one represented a person, a life, a story that ended too soon. This wall holds the names of everyone who died here, Megan told her students. Before your parents came, before your homes were built, there were other families living on this world. The Vorthani Dominion killed them all. A boy named Tommy raised his hand. Why did they kill them, Miss Walsh? Because they were afraid of us. Because they thought humans were growing too strong. They wanted to teach us to be small and quiet and afraid. But we're not afraid, a girl named Sophie said. Megan smiled. No, we're not. Our people went to war. They destroyed the Vorthani military. They captured their leaders and brought them to trial. Justice was served. Another student, a serious boy named Eric, spoke up. My dad says we should have destroyed their whole planet. He says we were too nice. NEU. Megan knelt down so she was at eye level with Eric. A lot of people feel that way. After what happened here, it would have been easy to be cruel. Our fleet had the power to kill 12 billion Vorthani. Admiral Ortega could have given the order, and no one would have stopped him. Why didn't he? Megan thought about how to explain it to a child. Because being civilized is not about how others treat you. It is about who you choose to be. Even when you have every reason to choose differently, we stopped being civilized long enough to make them understand we could be dangerous. Then, we chose to be civilized again. That choice is what makes us who we are. The children were quiet, thinking about her words. On the other side of the planet, Admiral Daniel Ortega stood alone at the memorial wall. He had retired from the military 6 months ago. He could not command ships anymore. Every time he looked at a weapons console, he remembered the moment when 12 billion lives had been in his hands. He ran his fingers across the names carved into the stone. So many names. He had memorized some of them. The names of children, mostly. He did not know why those hurt the most. But they did. Captain Ryan Torres found him there. Torres had been promoted after the war. He commanded his own ship now, a fast cruiser that patrolled the borders of human space. "Admiral," Torres said, "I thought I might find you here." Ortega did not turn around. "Just Daniel now. I'm not an admiral anymore." "You'll always be admiral to me, sir." They stood in silence for a while, looking at the names. "Can I ask you something?" Torres said, eventually. "Go ahead. Do you regret it?" Ortega was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was heavy, with something that was not quite sadness, and not quite peace. "Every night I dream about what I could have done. What part of me wanted to do. I see their world burning. I see 12 billion people dying. And in those dreams, I feel satisfied, righteous, justified." He finally turned to look at Torres. "And every morning I wake up, grateful that I did not do it. That I chose differently. That is the burden I carry now. The knowledge that I could have become a monster, and the daily choice to be something else instead." Torres nodded slowly. "The galaxy is different because of what you did. What you chose not to do. They respect us now. They fear us. Maybe that's the same thing, out here." Ortega looked up at the sky. Stars were beginning to appear in the evening darkness. Somewhere out there, species that had once dismissed humanity were learning new lessons. Learning that the young species they had tried to crush was stronger than they imagined, and also kinder than they deserved. "They wanted to know what humanity would do when pushed to the edge," Ortega said softly. "Now they know. And so do we." He placed his hand on the memorial wall one final time. "Rest now," he whispered to the names carved in stone. "You are not forgotten. You will never be forgotten. And what was done to you will never happen to anyone again. Rest process." The stars shone down on New Haven Memorial, on the graves of the dead and the homes of the living, on a species that had learned the terrible truth about the galaxy and had chosen, despite everything, to remain human. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the elder races watched and wondered what humanity would become. They had tried to break the young species. Instead, they had forged something new, something dangerous, something merciful, something that would change the galaxy forever.